The Paris attacks have had a very real impact on jihadist groups around the world, but particularly from where we're looking at things on South Asian groups. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that the impact of Paris has been almost as significant as the impact of the 9/11 attacks in terms of the boom for recruiting and the way that the attacks have been portrayed on jihadist social media and within jihadist groups themselves. And especially in South Asia, what we're looking at is a number of aspiring as well as active militants now wanting to flock to the Islamic State because they feel that the Islamic State is the group that has the capability to sort of create the largest attacks and to create the biggest movement from all the other groups, which they feel are less able to do so. The prominence of the Islamic State is bringing about a sea change, or rather, will bring about a sea change in the next 4 to 6 months on the dynamics of local jihadist groups in South Asia. For instance, in Pakistan, we find that groups like the Pakistani Taliban, who have over the past year been on the wrong end of a military operation, have been on the back foot, and have been losing ground, are now likely to find a lot of their cadres wanting to break away and join the Islamic State. So much so that we forecast that the leadership of the Taliban themselves will ultimately be forced to throw in their lot with the Islamic State. We find a very similar position in Bangladesh, where the Jamaat-e-Mujahideen Bangladesh was one of the most significant groups in the past. In recent years, it's been in decline, and all of a sudden, because of a growing affiliation with the Islamic State, they seem to have gotten a second wind with attacks being attributed to them, and all of a sudden they've sort of been able to re-engineer themselves. In India, the picture is slightly different, where you have the Kashmir-based or Kashmiri militant groups. They have more of a localized agenda, and they will not be interested really in joining a sort of transnational global jihadist movement. So they like to stay away. But again, other domestic groups who have in recent years become impoverished and not able to carry out attacks with the same degree of frequency or capability as in the past will no doubt be attracted to the lure of the Islamic State. And we have estimates from Indian security forces that there's something like 55 Islamic State recruiters active in India at the moment, although they haven't yet been particularly fruitful in recruiting large numbers of people. But certainly it's something that we're going to watch out for in the next 6 months or so. And lastly, in Afghanistan, the picture is slightly different. The Afghan Taliban themselves are in the ascendant with their recent successes in capturing the northern city of Kunduz. And so they are not obliged in any way to go along with or form any kind of coalition with the Islamic State. In fact, you find that the Taliban, as they attempt to try and broker a power sharing agreement with the Afghan government, are more and more opposed to the Islamic State because they find the Islamic State to be a challenge to their authority in Afghanistan. The targeting strategies will not be immediately impacted of these groups in the region, and the reason for that is that while these groups are flocking to the Islamic State on the hope, or rather in the hope that the Islamic State will provide material resources to them, so far we've had no evidence of the Islamic State doing that, at least in South Asia. While groups have been accepted and their allegiance has been accepted, there's been no handing over of funds or sending of advisors on the part of the Islamic State. So basically, these groups, even the ones that flock to the Islamic State, are then reliant on their own home-built capability, and that capability will remain the same. And so what you're likely to see is the same sort of target sets: Westerners, security forces, religious minorities. Although what you will see, especially in the light of Paris, is probably an increase in the numbers of attacks.